And she said, okay. And I'm like, what do I do now? I don't know what to do now. So now I'm freaking out. Now I'm a little nervous. And I asked the worst question. I said, how much can you pay? She said, it's not for free. I said, no, I just have some costs. She says, well, how much is your cost? I said, $50. She said, okay. Yes, all right. And I said, okay, let me get your address down. So I get my pen in my foot and I'm writing down the address. She says, can you come next Tuesday? I said, yeah, I'll see you next Tuesday. Okay, great. Okay, we'll see you then. Thanks so much. Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye. And she hangs up the phone and I'm like, yeah! Failure or success? Success! I was so excited I was going to prove my parents wrong. I'm going to be a speaker and accounting is so boring. So guess what happened? I was so happy. And then I looked at the map. You see, when you call 53 schools, you start calling schools that are not in your city. This school was a 2.5-hour drive. I'm thinking, what am I going to do? It's Thursday today. The speech is next Tuesday. Maybe if I start walking now, I'll get there on time. What am I going to do, hitchhike or something? So I didn't ask my parents for help. They didn't believe in my dream. So I went to my brother. He's 16 years old. He's watching the TV. I come walking in the room. I say, hey, Aaron. Hey. What's up? Nothing much. I have some good news. Oh yeah? What's that? A school wants me to speak. Oh, that's nice. Whoa, you want me to take you, huh? I said, Aaron, please, you don't understand. I go 53 schools and 52 schools and I really want to be a speaker. And someone finally said, yes, I need to get there. I said, okay, calm down. All right, relax. Where is the school? And I said, the address is in my room. I said, okay. He said, when is it? I said, Tuesday. He said, oh, no, I can't do Tuesday. I said, why not? He said, I'm busy. I said, you're busy? I said, what are you doing? He said, nothing. He wasn't going to take me. So I walked away, and I'm calculating. So much is on the line. I can't give up now. Okay? Only your heart can tell you when you give up on your dream. Sometimes when you give something up, something else better comes. When you hold something in your hand, you can't receive anything better. Does that make sense? Sometimes you have to let it go. Sometimes it comes back. Sometimes it never comes back. Sometimes it was never meant to be. At that time, I could not give up. My heart was like, no, not yet, not yet, not yet, not now. So I went back to my brother and I said, hey, I'll pay you $50. And he said, okay. Now he's driving. And there's no GPS, okay? It's just a map on paper. That's how it was, okay? He's looking out the window and he starts seeing all the houses disappear. We're going into some farm area. He says, where are we going? I said, be quiet, just keep driving. You're getting paid. So he starts smiling and he says, okay, that's fine. And so he says, how big is this school? And I'm like, I don't know. He said, what do you mean you don't know? Didn't you ask? I said, no. He said, do you even know how long you're speaking for? No. He said, why didn't you ask? Don't you think you should ask? I said, stop it, I don't know what I'm doing, man. We're siblings, we love each other and hate each other at the same time. We get to the school. I'm nervous. I'm thinking, I'm so stupid. Why didn't I ask those simple questions? So I'm nervous. I go up to the headmaster, I said, hello, thank you so much for having me. No, thank you for coming, we're so excited. I said, I just have 2 questions. They said, yes, what is it? I said, how long would you like me to speak for? Oh, 5 minutes. I couldn't believe it. 2.5-hour drive there, 2.5-hour drive back for 5 minutes. My brother laughs out loud. He walks away. And I said to myself, maybe it's a big crowd. If it's a big crowd for 5 minutes, then it's okay. Guess what? It was only a crowd of 10 people. And I got up on stage, and I felt like nothing. All the voices in my head. You're silly for dreaming in the first place. You're never going to be a speaker. You don't even have anything nice to share. You don't even know what's going on. You still cry sometimes. How can you motivate people when sometimes you're not motivated? All that negativity building up. I get off the stage. I get the $50. I pay my brother. We go stop at a gas station, at a petrol station to fuel up the car. I pay for the fuel. And I tell my brother, don't tell mom and dad. I get home and my mom sees me and she says, Nick, how was the speech? And I said, it was good, Mom. And I go to my room. I close the door. I don't come out for dinner. They ask my brother, why is Nick so sad? He shares what happened and I'm glad he did. I was so depressed, I think I cried that night because I put so much into that dream and it fell apart. I went to sleep and the next morning, 8:30 in the morning, very early for a 19-year-old, my phone starts ringing. Who is calling me this early? I didn't pick it up. I remember what happened the day before. I get depressed, get sad, beating myself up. I should have just asked those 2 questions. My phone rings again. I didn't pick it up. 3rd time, I picked up the phone. I'm half asleep. Hello? Hello, is this Nick Vujicic, motivational speaker? Yes, yes. Hi, good morning. How are you? How can I help you? Well, we heard that you speak to schools. Is that correct? I said, yes. She said, did you speak just yesterday? I said, yes. She said, do you talk to students about never giving up? I said, yes. She said, you don't understand. We need you at our school. We'll do anything right now. We heard you were so good, and we'll pick you up, we'll pay for you, we'll take care of you, and we'll put you in front of about 100 students, and we'll give you about 15 minutes to talk. We know that you must be so busy. But how can we make this happen? I said, let me check my schedule. I open up my blank diary. I turn a blank page. I turn another blank page. 2 more blank pages. Say, how about Friday, next Friday? She says, okay. We get the deal done. I get the address. It's only 20 minutes away. It's perfect. It's done. Hang up the phone. And I'm like, one of the best days of my life. I spoke at that school, and another school heard about me. I spoke at that school. 2 schools heard about me. I spoke at those 2 schools. 8 schools heard about me. I have now spoken in the last 13 years over 3,000 speeches in front of a total of 6 million people. The average crowd is 2,000 people at every speech. The largest crowd is 110,000. We're going to Poland tomorrow. There's 25,000 tickets sold. In a stadium where people are there to hear a message of hope. In 2013 alone, I met with 8 presidents. I spoke in front of 5 governments. 12 governments ordered me to go on their national mainstream TV for 1 hour for free to 70% of their country. And in a 17-week tour that was broken up in different pieces in 2013, I spoke to 6% of the world, 400 million people in 1 year. My dream is big. My dream is bigger than big. Why? You want to know why? Because I have now 35,000 invitations for me to speak. 35,000 times I have said no. Actually, I don't even see them. My team says no. I see maybe 1% of the invitations that come through. And it's forced me to dream even bigger. Where even in America, we now are on the internet speaking to 276 schools last year at the same time, live. 356,000 students. This October, 700,000 students in Ohio, 700,000 students in Florida. In September next year, 2 million kids against bullying. We're talking about bullying and teen suicide prevention programs. Millions and millions and millions of people. I never thought that my dreams could come true. But you don't know what you can achieve until you try. When you fail, you got to try again. When you fail, it's an education. When you see an obstacle, don't see it as a barrier, see it as an opportunity. Obstacles equals opportunity. I gave you that, right? When I started my journey, I didn't know what I didn't know, and that was okay. But what I did know, it was enough. I was ready to fail to succeed. So what's your goal? What's your dream? I want you now to leave a line. Wait, how many principles did I give you?